The Ancient Light by Nico Smit. Chapter 1. A Journey Begins. The raft drifted leisurely down the river, floating aimlessly into the now total darkness. Jemba lit another torch and shoved its unlit end into a crevice near the edge of the barge. The flame flickered in the night breeze, illuminating the dark tide beneath them, casting their tall shadows over the water. Having completed his chore, Jemba turned around and came over to sit with Juan and Zatu. The big man handed each of them a small loaf of bread, and also put a bag of nuts between them on one of the floorboards. "Eat," he mumbled to Juan. "Who knows what this night still holds for us? I suggest you eat some food and gather your strength, laddie." After taking his first bite, Juan suddenly remembered his thirst. He got up and went down on his knees at the edge of the raft, scooping water to drink with his one hand. "Careful now, laddie," cautioned Jemba. "These waters may hold some surprises for us yet." Juan drank a couple of handfuls and then joined the other two again. After jamming a few portions of bread into his mouth, he started talking through the food barrier. "What exactly happened back there in town?" he asked, directing the question at Zatu. "How were you able to knock out two Yenka?" Zatu, who was silently gnawing away, swallowed a mouthful and replied, "We are both trained in the art of combat and war. If you join the bearers of the light, then you enter into a war with this kingdom of darkness. Training in all major types of combat is compulsory for bearers of the light, and most of us train on a daily basis. I have been in training for about 20 years now. It seems that my experience and the element of surprise gave me the advantage today." Zatu's tone was light, almost as if he was trying to play down the magnitude of what had transpired earlier. Juan was not satisfied with this explanation. "But what was that light I saw?" He pried further. "You had some sort of blue light?" His gaze becoming more serious now, Zatu answered, "That, Juan, is my gift. It is a gift of warfare that I received from the light. It enables me to accomplish feats of strength and speed that surpasses that of a normal man." Zatu gave the statement a second to sink in, then he went on, "Everyone who becomes a bearer of the light receives a gift. The type of gift received varies from person to person. Jemba's gift is different from mine, though we both have gifts of warfare." Zatu grinned slyly as he shot a glance at his bulk of a companion. "If you think what I did was impressive, you should try and go around with this fellow," Zatu said, pointing to Jemba with his thumb. "He would smash me to a pulp if we were to go head to head." At Zatu's words, Jemba grunted and looked down sheepishly, grabbing some nuts from the bag and murmuring something inaudible. Juan couldn't make out what he said. Turning his attention back to Zatu, Juan asked, "How does it work, exactly? This power?" Juan could see Zatu's face twist slightly, and his mouth shrivel as he thought of a way to answer the question. After some thought, Zatu lifted his hands in gestures as he tried to explain. "It's not something that can really be explained or measured. After receiving your gift from the light, it's almost as if you just know you have it and what it is. It usually takes some time for the bearer to properly figure it out, though. No one can tell you what your gift is or how it works, for no one but you will ever know. It is something you can only understand and grow in through your connection with the ancient light." Zatu stared into the distance. A hint of sadness rang in his voice. There are even those who live their entire lives without ever learning what their gift is or how to control it. He looked back at Zatu. "But once you become a bearer of the light, you receive a gift. If you decide to join us, you too will receive a gift, Juan." Juan considered the prospect and found it very exciting. Could he actually learn to master something as powerful as what he witnessed from these two men? His thoughts of glory were quickly shut down when he remembered the cost that he was told you have to pay for becoming a light bearer. He reluctantly kept his emotions in check and held back a bit on indulging in his fantasy. Juan sat back and steadied himself, leaning on the raftwood with one arm. "Amazing," he exclaimed after a while. "All my life, I thought the only power in Endro was that of Greco and the dark powers he controls. And only now I learn that there is another power as well." Juan shook his head from side to side. Suddenly, a spark shone in his eye as he looked up at Zatu. "Can you show me?" Zatu shook his head, but seemed unfazed at the bluntness of the question. "No, sorry," he said. "Gifts are given to bearers of the light with a specific purpose: warfare, healing, prophecy, and so on. The gifts are not to be put on display. If we use our gift outside of the domain it was intended, then we make a spectacle of it and cheapen it. So, in our case, We will use our gifts only for war, and no other purpose." Juan nodded his understanding. Strangely, it seemed to make sense to him. He took another bite from his loaf and had a good look at his odd new traveling companions. They appeared so free, strong, independent. Juan had never imagined himself to one day become one of the wild men of the road, and now it seemed that he was thrown into it without much choice of his own. Despite being on the dreaded river, at night, drifting away into darkness, away from everything he had ever known, he experienced a reassuring sense of comfort. He felt something in his inner being that could have been excitement. For the first time in so many years he started feeling alive on the inside. Juan spent the next 2 hours asking questions and hanging on Zatu's lips as he told him all manner of things that Juan had never heard. Jemba sat with them for a while, then returned to the edge of the raft staring into the darkness attentively, presumably acting as lookout. Finally there came a point in the evening when Zatu decided to act in all of their best interest, and he said, "All right, my friend, it's time for us to get some sleep. We have had a long day and the next few days have much in store for us. I suggest you make yourself comfortable and try to get some sleep. We can keep talking tomorrow, among other things." Zatu lay down between 2 logs with such poise that it made the crude surface seem like a meadow. Juan followed suit, but failed miserably in his attempt to find the comfort that he saw in Zatu's relaxed form next to him. "Wake me when it's my shift," said Zatu to Jemba as he closed his eyes and laid his head down. Jemba in turn responded with a grunt. The torch-lit raft drifted off into the night, kept in the center of the wide river by the accelerated current. The 3 men quieted down as they settled for the night's rest, unknowing that in one of the riverside trees, a shadow sat on one of the branches, observing the barge float by. As they passed, the shadow lifted itself from the branch where it was perched and flew into the dark. "Hans Kernin,"